The S&P 500 and Nasdaq closed at record highs on Thursday, propelled by optimism about more pandemic relief under the Biden administration to support the economy. The number of Americans filing new applications for unemployment benefits decreased modestly last week as the pandemic tears through the nation. The first cannabis farm has been found in London's historic financial district, where office buildings have been emptied because of lockdowns to contain the spread of COVID-19. These and more on TFT News. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News. Ford Motor Company said on Thursday it will recall 3 million vehicles for airbag inflators that could rupture at a cost of $610 million.
Ford announced on Thursday it was recalling 3 million cars due to potential issues with airbag inflators. The measure is expected to cost the automaker $610 million and affects vehicles from the 2006 through 2012 model years. The airbag inflators in question were produced by auto parts supplier Takata. In rare instances, a defect in them can lead to a rupture in the bag, sending potentially deadly metal fragments flying. Worldwide, there have been 27 deaths and at least 400 injuries from the inflators. It's prompted the largest automotive recall in US history of more than 67 million inflators, and a further 33 million worldwide. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration rejected on Tuesday a 2017 petition by Ford and Mazda, which sought to avoid recalling the cars with the potentially dangerous airbags. The regulator said the evidence was clear that these inflators pose a significant safety risk. Mazda will be required to recall and repair driver airbags in approximately 5,800 vehicles.
The S&P 500 and Nasdaq closed at record highs on Thursday, propelled by optimism about more pandemic relief under the Biden administration to support the economy.
The Dow took a breather, but the rest of Wall Street nudged up to record-closing highs on optimism about future stimulus under the new Biden administration. Blue chips fizzled into the close to end down 12 points, while the S&P 500 crept up a point and the Nasdaq jumped 73 points, enough for both to log new closing highs into the record books. Tech outperformed on Thursday as investors looked for a safe place to hide in a choppy session, says Terrence Gabriel. He's the Stocks Buzz analyst at Thomson Reuters.
A lot's been built in, so it does seem to be a moment where certainly what have been the winners, some of these value stocks, financials, energy, small caps, they're stumbling, where the market is rotating a bit back into some of those sort of bigger cap growth stocks that it feels may be a sort of safer area to concentrate on when you have suddenly uncertainty creeping back in here.
Mixed economic news put a cap on any upside moves outside of tech. 900,000 new Americans signed up for jobless benefits last week, though that number was down slightly week to week. It's still way above the peak during the financial crisis. The elevated numbers raise the risk the U.S. could post a second straight month of net job losses. All in all, some 16 million Americans received some sort of government unemployment assistance during the first week of January. But on the bright side, permits for future home building projects surged last month to a 14-year high, and manufacturing activity in the Mid-Atlantic region accelerated this month thanks to a boom in new orders. Investors also had to contend with mixed earnings. Shares of United Airlines tumbled nearly 6% after posting its fourth straight quarterly loss. Intel, the humbled chip giant, topped both sales and profit forecasts. It also guided current quarter estimates higher.
Some of former President Donald Trump's most high-profile hospitality properties took a large revenue hit last year as COVID-19 lockdowns hurt businesses.
Just one day after President Trump left the White House, the financial strain of his family businesses coming into focus. Not even the resort properties of the former president were spared from the fallout of decreased travel and state lockdowns during the health crisis last year. According to financial documents filed Wednesday, his final day in office, most of his properties took a hit last year. His Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. saw revenues in 2020 and the first 3 weeks of this year plunge 63% compared to his 2019 disclosure. And the Trump property in Las Vegas saw a 61% drop in sales, while the Trump National Doral Golf Course in Florida saw a 43% fall in sales. The only bright spot? Mar-a-Lago, the Florida property where he is expected to spend most of his time as a private citizen. Revenues at that property actually saw a 13% annual gain. That, of course, is the place where Trump played host to political allies and foreign dignitaries. Trump was required to file the regular financial disclosures before leaving office, and with no tax returns to scour, this is the fullest glimpse into his finances. Besides the drop in activity at his properties, the disclosure also revealed Trump's debt. The Trump business has 5 separate lines of credit worth at least $50 million each. Most of that debt comes due within the next 4 years.
The number of Americans filing new applications for unemployment benefits decreased modestly last week as the pandemic tears through the nation.
The number of Americans filing for first-time unemployment benefits last week dropped slightly to a still elevated 900,000, laying bare the challenge U.S. President Joe Biden faces as he inherits a job market battered by the health crisis. Jobless claims released by the Labor Department on Thursday remain at extraordinarily high levels by historical standards. At the height of the Great Recession, weekly unemployment claims peaked at 665,000. The latest claims report comes as the health crisis disrupts operations at businesses like restaurants, gyms, and other establishments where crowds tend to gather, reducing hours for many workers and pushing others out of employment. Consumers are also hunkering down at home, leading to a weakening in demand. Part of the elevation in claims reflects people reapplying for benefits following the government's recent renewal of a $300 unemployment supplement until March 14th.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
Biden, who took the oath of office on Wednesday, has pitched a plan to pump an additional $1.9 trillion into the struggling economy. If approved by Congress, it would provide $400 per week in supplementary unemployment benefits through September, plus aid for state and local governments and direct payments of $1,400 to individuals on top of the $600 approved in December. As of the first week of January, there were roughly 16 million Americans receiving some sort of government jobless assistance.
In 4 years, Trump overturned decades of U.S. policy in the Middle East, and Joe Biden will want to undo many of those changes during his presidency, but his freedom for maneuvers will be limited.
In 4 years, Donald Trump overturned decades of U.S. policy in the Middle East. But how much of that is likely to survive now that there's a new president in the White House?
We have such an awful lot to do.
Joe Biden is likely to want to undo many of Trump's changes, but his freedom for manoeuvre will be limited. Biden's choice for Secretary of State Antony Blinken has signalled that countering Iran would be key.
President-elect Biden is committed to the proposition that Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon.
But he also admitted the US is a long way from rejoining the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, designed to restrain Tehran's nuclear program. Trump Heights, Trump Square, Trump train terminal. The former US president certainly left his stamp on Israel, where he is widely admired for his staunch support of the country. His administration recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and accepted Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. But in the Palestinian territories, no US president was so openly reviled. At his Senate confirmation, Blinken signalled the Biden administration would return to pre-Trump diplomatic norms.
And maybe the only way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish democratic state and to give the Palestinians the state to which they are entitled is through the so-called two-state solution.
Biden has vowed to restore Palestinian ties cut by Trump through resuming aid and pushing back on Israeli settlement expansion. But Trump legacies are likely to remain, like the US Embassy's location in Jerusalem. Eitan Gilboa is an Israeli political science expert and says Trump's most important achievements were normalization agreements signed between Israel and the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan and Morocco.
These agreements have changed the international and regional landscape of the Middle East because for the first time in years, an opportunity emerged for a comprehensive Arab-Israeli peace. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Trump have established very close and intimate relationship. This represents an aberration in American-Israeli relations that will not continue with the Biden administration.
Congratulations, President Joe Biden.
The diplomatic deals are likely to remain, as they have bipartisan support in Washington and brought a strategic realignment of Middle East countries against Iran.
Thank you. Welcome. As my mom would say, God love you all. We got a lot of work to do.
The first cannabis farm has been found in London's historic financial district, where office buildings have been emptied because of lockdowns to contain the spread of COVID-19.
As much of London's financial hub lies deserted, police officers have made an unusual discovery. The City of London Police said on Wednesday that they found the first cannabis farm in the historic district. 826 cannabis plants were seized in a building near the Bank of England, following reports of a strong smell of cannabis. Officers said the farm was likely set up in response to fewer people being out and about, while heavy restrictions remain in place. The City of London, which is home to the world's largest commercial insurance market, banks and fund managers, has largely been deserted since March, with most employees asked to work from home. During an online event on Wednesday, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey said people are likely to make jokes about what the central bank staff have been doing, adding that we're now going to be subject to endless jokes about now we know what the Bank of England has been on.
Those are the latest from around the world. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News.